All right, so a little bit of recap. Last time we went over the beginning part of the second use case, which was theft, loss, and data exfil. A couple things we covered were like different areas to remember, such as, not to forget the physical, there's the network layer, there's the endpoints, different ways to classify data, different ways to map that data. So like data in rest, data in motion, data in use. And we covered a little bit about implementing some test scenarios and starting out small, as opposed to, trying to solve all of your exfil problems with one big giant solution that probably won't go over so very well. So now that we've covered mostly the loss portion of the use case, we're going to focus kind of on some malicious exfiltration by either an employee or an outsider. So, everybody's always talking about those inside threats. So that's kind of something that people worry about quite a lot, especially if there's a lot of data flowing either between companies or in the company, don't necessarily know where it's at. So that can be a big threat a lot of the times. So there's several different ways that someone malicious would handle recon work for the purpose of exfiltrating data. Things like port scanning, scanning for open file shares, testing for default or weak credentials, like credential spring, Active Directory queries, things like sniffing the Wi-Fi or other, physical methods of doing recon. Most data requires at least some sort of authentication to access, other than things like completely open file shares or anonymous FTP, things that definitely shouldn't be out there anyways. So if we focus on the malicious attempts and not end users just like up and losing the data, like, they left their laptop in the back of the car that got broken into. So if we focus on that as opposed to them losing on accident, there's a fair amount of defensive measures we can take to prevent certain types of recon. There's like if you have any control over the networking, right? You would want to disable all of the ports that are not being used in the organization. So somebody can't just, find an empty room or an empty wall jack and plug in and boom, they're on the network with, maybe your PCI data or anything else that they could be sniffing traffic on. There are automated ways of doing that. So you could do things with Puppet. You can do things with Ansible. Rancid is one that I've personally used that was able to push out multiple configs to a bunch of different Cisco switches when I used it. And then a software that I like to recommend called netdisco, which uses SNMP to kind of just walk the network, and it will show you what's on what port, the MAC address, port history. It'll show you what's up and down, what's on what VLANs. It's really cool free software that's out there that's fairly easy to use once you've gotten it up and running. Getting it up and running the last time I did it anyways was a little bit difficult, but once you get it up and going, it was definitely worth it. So Rancid is RANCID. That was the automation to the Cisco switches, and then netdisco is NETDISCO. Yep. Another thing that you can do is auto shun port and vulnerability scans from external entities. So a lot of I've ran into customers that have really liked alerting on if somebody is scanning, doing a vuln scan against their outside websites. It's a horrible idea to alert on that. If you can automatically block that, if there's anything, if you have anything in place to do that, that's definitely recommended, just because people are constantly scanning the internet, doing port scans, doing vulnerability scans on the entire internet all the time. And it usually doesn't mean that they're, specifically attacking you. For the most part, it's just research purposes, or, somebody's trying to spray new vulnerabilities that are out there. Yeah, logs are definitely always filled with scans. The other day, there's the stupid researcher in Europe that keeps on doing a little bit more aggressive scans. Ransom's the switch tool. Doing some more aggressive scans against some of our customers that are actually like triggering a whole bunch of different IDS alerts. So I actually compared the scans that they were doing to like the IPs that are from Shodan, and it's just amazing the amount of hits, like even per hour, per day, whatever, that a single IP will get. But yeah, auto-shunning those is great. Autoshun.org and other hosting providers, I think AWS and stuff like that, has capabilities like this that will just, block that so you don't have to worry about it. 3, you can do things like disabling open shares, or if you have to have an open share, restrict it down somehow, with an endpoint firewall. Make sure there's never any information out there that's not supposed to be. I know that's easier said than done, but open shares in general are a bad idea. I have a link that will be in the slides that is for an Nmap scan that you can use to do enumeration of SMB shares. And I actually found the other day, it's called Share Scan that McAfee uses, or that McAfee wrote, it's a free tool that will actually, you can just download it and scan the network for open shares, and it looked pretty cool. So those are some defensive mitigations that you can do. And for monitoring, going back to like the whole alerting on people scanning. So at minimum, this is what it takes to implement some kind of threat detection. I just wanted to give that kind of as an overview because, again, a lot of people want to alert on a vulnerability scan or a port scan or anything like that. And it's not just, let's turn this on and alert on it. There's a lot that has to go into implementing some kind of threat detection as far as that's concerned. So session querying. If anyone knows what session querying is, you can use it. It's in the command line on Windows. All you do is type net space session in a command line, and right there on the screen it shows you what the computer is that's logged in, and the username. So that can give an attacker a lot of information once they're on a box, and can allows them to see the admin level accounts, that kind of stuff. So very rarely would you use this as like in an enterprise. Like a user's not just going to go to the command line and type net session, right? It's something though that I've seen pen testers do over and over and over again. So I think it's probably something that you could alert on. So in the domain controller, we're going to walk through that again. So if you want to open up your DC, let's see if I can find mine. Yes. We're going to open group policy again. And what we're going to be doing here is enabling command line level logging. So it'll actually, I wonder if we've done this before in this, I can't remember. Well, we'll find out. So we're going to edit our whole domain GPO. I feel like we've already done this, but I'll have to look back and see, or we'll see when we open this up. I'm gonna make this bigger. So under computer configuration, we're gonna go to policies. Windows settings, security settings, advanced audit policy configuration, audit policies, detailed tracking, audit process creation is the one that we have, well, one of the ones we have to turn on. So we're going to enable successive audit process creation. And then we're going to go back. Let's see here, where's this at? Policies, administrative templates, system, audit process creation. Oh yeah, include command line and process creation events. That's right. So you have to have the other one on for this one to even matter and work. So this is going to log everything that's in a command line process. So I enable that. How to get computer GPO in the first place. So you open, when you open up group policy management, so you can go to the command line and do, well, on the server, you can just go to start and type in group policy. And it's going to open up group policy management. And then you'll see this screen. And we're editing this new domain policy that we had created last time. So I just clicked on this whole domain GPO and clicked on edit. And that brought up this other screen. And you'll have the option for computer configuration and user configuration. Oh, sorry. Okay, so we have those two applied, and so when you use advanced audit policy configuration settings, you need to make sure they're not overwritten by the basic audit policy settings. So there's another setting that we have to go in and change so our more strict ones aren't overwritten if something else is added in the basic audit settings. So that's under computer configuration, policies, Windows settings, security settings, local policies, security options. Yeah, security options. And then this one right here, force audit policy subcategory settings to override blah, 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 blah. So we're going to find this as enabled. So we are going to open up a command line. And I will try and make this bigger because I know this is even super tiny on my screen. Hold on one second. Oh, well, that solves that problem, I guess, but I have to go back. So we're going to do group policy update. So GP update /force. Going to update that policy. And we're going to type in net space session. Ah, shit. Oh, sorry. I shouldn't say that on recording. 1 second. I have to open that up as command line as administrator. You can't open, well, I know there's a command line switch to open it as admin, I think, from run, but I usually just find the actual program and do a right click. Let me type net session. So there's no entries because I'm the only one logged in. There would actually have to be another account logged in for you to see anything show up, like if somebody was RDP'd in, or if it was a terminal server, where you had a whole bunch of people, connected at once. You would be able to see all of the sessions in here when you type net session. But we don't need to worry that there's anything there because we just want to record the fact that that command was run. So back to the event viewer, which is always super fun to look through. And it should be in here as 4688. And it's going to be query.exe. If I can find it. Ahaha. Ta-da. So net session, net1.exe is the actual program and process that it runs. And you can look for 4688. So again, I mean, not a lot of people just run net session randomly. I've only ever seen somebody do that if they're troubleshooting user logins or if they're trying to find, information for some lateral movement or something. I think query.exe is another one that you can look for. It's another program that runs when you do net session. Okay. On to the next phase, which is exploitation. Exploitation phase, something like multi-factor auth or two-factor auth is bypassed on successful authentication. Now, to do that, you would not only have to be tracking all of your successful, failed and success authentications for your, primary auth, whatever, so Windows, like LDAP, that kind of stuff. You would also have to be getting good logs from whatever your multi-factor auth solution is. So you would be able to tell that you have the matched up accounts happening and do some querying and alerting around that. That's how you would know if it was, if the two-factor auth was bypassed on something that it shouldn't be. And two-factor auth can definitely be implemented incorrectly. This right here is the tweet that happened before Twitter had two-factor auth. It's when the AP's account got hacked, when the hacking group that got a hold of it and tweeted this out. When that happened, the stock market dropped like crazy. People were freaking out. So a lot of bad things can definitely happen when you don't have two-factor auth. I actually, a couple different places that I've been have had penetration tests done and has successfully gotten past the two-factor auth, not because it wasn't implemented, but because it wasn't implemented correctly. You can have it where, you type in your username and password and you get a phone call and you just hit a pound key, or you get the push notification and you just approve it, right? It's not it's not asking you for a second code or anything like that. It's definitely a less secure version. And then, you know, depending on what you implement, definitely goes back to how you've prioritized your data, and, you know, what's going to be more important for you to safeguard, that kind of stuff. But attackers can definitely get past two-factor auth because I've heard a lot of them will, you know, put in the stolen credentials that they have gotten, and, you know, that user has just been trained that this is, you know, that's like a learned behavior, that they'll just, okay, well, this is the number that I always get this call from. I don't know what I'm logging into, but I always hit pound when it comes up, so I might as well just hit pound, and then, you know, the attacker, pen tester, whatever gets in. Yeah, I just basically covered all that. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can do improper implementation when users approve through. Yeah. So I don't know that it's necessary improper implementation, but it's definitely less secure than, say, getting, well, like with Google Authenticator, you don't have the option to just say, okay. You have to use, you know, the 6-digit code. There's a lot of them out there that just give you a push notification. It's not really as secure as you having to have that other 6-digit code, because there's no way of getting past that. You would actually have to physically have the phone. You couldn't rely on the user just saying, oh yeah, sure, that sounds right. Yeah, like Microsoft Auth, right? And like with the YubiKey, you know, you have to have it physically with you. Something that's done for installation at this phase. So remember, the idea is they're trying to get into somewhere to get the information and extract it, you know, where they're going to be able to use it or destroy it or whatever. So things like FTP software might be installed or maybe used if it's already on there. DNS tunneling is pretty common. There are things, so I don't know a whole lot about DNS tunneling, but there's things out there like DNS cat or iodine that can be incredibly effective exfiltrating data in super small amounts over DNS protocols because nobody really pays attention to it. And a lot of the tools that have been created for DNS tunneling were created to like bypass like captive portals for paid Wi-Fi, bypassing multi-factor auth because, you know, you don't have multi-factor auth on DNS, right? So if you have a system that allows all DNS traffic out no matter what, you know, you can set your DNS to Google's or your own if you want to run your own DNS server. A tunnel can be set up to tunnel that IP traffic out without paying for service, bypassing any kind of monitoring, control, that kind of stuff. Will the DNS tunneling tools detect whether data is being exfiltrated? You know, I think there are some, you know, next-gen firewall things that say they're really good at detecting DNS tunneling. They're actually not the tools that are out there that you can use to exfil the data are very, very noisy. And I think I covered that. Maybe not. Oh yeah, that's in a couple slides. I've never seen any actually detect. I think they probably do have in proof concept. I've personally never seen anything detect DNS tunneling, but it would be super interesting if any of you have. Things that you can do for defensive mitigation for tunneling, FTP, stuff like that. Application whitelisting, egress filtering, anomaly detection. So you should know what devices are allowed to perform those external DNS queries and what your normal DNS traffic looks like. I am so surprised all the time how many places don't have egress filtering, and that will stop any kind of unauthorized endpoint from accessing the internet on ports that you don't want them to access on. You know, you're going to want to have your own dedicated DNS server. Those are the only servers that are allowed to perform DNS queries outbound. An option using to the no bro alert layer. Okay, that's interesting. But yeah, so not only egress filtering, but I mean, not allowing FTP outbound is definitely something that's fairly easy to implement. Again, it's going around and finding who has a legitimate business case and why are they still using FTP and not something like SFTP or a Dropbox or something like that. You know, it was hard enough to get people off of you know, sending large files via email and going to something like FTP. And now, you know, we're trying to tell people to not use FTP and switch to something more secure. But, you know, just like with trying to find out who is using macros in the environment, it's going to be the same thing with FTP. You have to go around and figure out, all right, well, we have this old, you know, AS400 system that doesn't, you know, that it can't do anything other than FTP because it's like 20 years old. So yeah, that's a little legitimate business use case, but there should be specific firewall rules in place. It shouldn't be, you know, everybody's allowed to FTP because we have to have this one thing do it. Oh yeah, and so a lot of the DNS tunneling utilities don't even try to be stealthy. And again, actually I'll paste this in the chat. It's a SANS white paper. So they're relying on the fact that DNS isn't really often monitored. So this SANS white paper describes in depth how to detect those DNS exfil anomalies. So some areas that they cover are size of the request and response, statistical analysis, and hosts using uncommon record types that you don't normally see, or attempting DNS resolution to the internet as opposed to, you know, the one that they get via DHCP. One of the top worries of data exfiltration with companies is that the information might just end up on the dark web somewhere, while the majority of the time, really the data exfil won't go directly to Tor from the compromised network. It's kind of still helpful to monitor for. There's snort rules and other IDS rules that can alert on Tor browser traffic, and we can cover that next, I think. You know, something cool for C2 with Brologs is Rita by John Strand. I actually saw half of a talk that he gave about that, and you're right, it did look really super cool. I think I probably should add that to this lab. That would be pretty fun. So I have to say, I just love this picture just because it's crazy. Like I said, people are worried about it ending up on the deep, dark, scary web down there somewhere. I don't know. So what we're going to do is cover snort a little bit. And I have a snort rule that hopefully still works. I haven't tested it out in a couple months, but it's supposed to detect anytime the Tor browser reaches out. So go ahead and open up your Kali VM. I'll give everybody a second while I take a drink. All right. So in Kali, go ahead and open up your command line. There, that makes that a little bit bigger. So we need to add a couple repos into the source list to get the most recent version of snort if you don't have it installed. So I'm going to copy those into chat. And we're going to use whatever, text file editor that you like. I use Nano, don't judge me. We're going to do Etsy apt sources. As long as you don't use VI, yeah. You add all 4 of those to the end. So you have any secrets from copying over to a VM? I have vSphere or VMware Fusion, I guess, now that I'm on a Mac, and it just works for me. Hyper-V sucks. And yeah, snort rules are definitely compatible with Suricata. I just do not have Suricata currently installed. Something that I have done before, though, to kind of cheat the copying and pasting is opening up a Google Doc. And I'll have, Google Drive open in one spot and, on my VM, and then on my host machine, just copying back and forth. After that, you do your apt-get update. Let's see here. There's also, I think that actually should take care of all of the required dependencies that you need to install Snort 2. But if not, I have used Security Onion before. Oh, that's supposed to be apt-get. But those are a bunch of the required dependencies for Snort. Nope, that's all right. I can wait a little bit. All right, after you've done that and run apt-get update, we need to run the command to install it, which I am going to copy in chat too. Where'd it go? Okay, there we go. I don't know why. Oh, it did work? Okay, good. All right, so yeah, you can use that. Yeah, just use apt-get install snort if that worked then. Yeah, I thought the repo thing made you have to compile it from source, but if that works, then that's good. And that shouldn't take too awful long to install that. And then you can do snort-b. Oh, shoot. Oh man, maybe I don't have it installed. Yes, I do. Okay. I forgot I was not logged in as root. Kali does not like you doing things with snort or with Tor, the Tor browser as root as well. It will really yell at you. So I'm going to just move on. If you're still installing it, don't worry. You know, you can come back and listen to me later. So this being that you've already installed snort, there's a whole bunch of stuff you can do with it. -v gives you the version and everything about it. You can do --help. It's going to give you all the amazing things that you can do with snort. So you can do a lot via the command line. This first -c, the lowercase c, is going to be where the rules files are. And we're going to definitely need to know about that because we're going to make our own rules file. So we are going to change directory to @c_snort. And in here you see you have the rules directory. And then the snort.conf, which we'll have to edit here in a second too. So we'll change into the rules directory. And here are all the standard rules that come with snort. And if I'm going too fast, if, I guess I just assumed everybody knows, but snort's an IDS. So it's going to listen to all the traffic that's going over the network interface, and it will alert you based on different things. Like it has a bunch of different virus indicators and different attack indicators and stuff like that. That's what are in these rules. And all of those are built from, you know, what the actual packets look like and the timing and that kind of stuff. So in here, I think I have my custom, yeah. So I have these my custom.rules, which are ones that I specifically have in here for the Tor rule that I created. And it looks like this one is the one that probably works, since that's the one that I edited last. So we're going to cat my custom rules. Yeah, and see in here I have a hashtag, and believe me, you don't have to type all of this. I can copy and paste it in chat, or it's going to be in the slide deck if you want the actual rule itself. But this is a snort rule. It's going to tell you what it wants you to do. So it's alerting on TCP traffic. And these are the different nets that it's going to. So this is going to be from anywhere to anywhere it wants to alert on. You can do things like set up different networks. So you can say, you know, I want to alert on this only if it's coming inbound, or I want to alert on this if it's going from this subnet to this subnet. All of that's configurable within the rule itself. Different the message that you want it to send to you in the alert, which, you know, can be an email or whatever, and then the actual content and the different bytes that are in the packets that it will be alerting on. I'm not going to get into all the writing of snort rules and all that kind of stuff. That I could go probably way too deep into a rabbit hole for that. So just know that this is a Tor alert, and we're going to add that in there. So if you add another rules file, you also have to go back and add it to your snort config. Oops. And this is the snort config. So in here, bunch of sample stuff. This is where you add your home net. So this, you know, this is everything that's an ROC 1918 address that I added in here. And then I put my external net as any. I think that's deep by default. So it can also run as just logging the packets too. Let's see here. So in the configuration file, there's a whole bunch of other stuff. So you can list, you know, web servers, SQL servers, all your different kinds that will actually pertain to all of the rule files that we had in there. You can change your path to where the rules are at. You can whitelist and blacklist different rules. A whole bunch of other stuff that I don't know what it does. And let's see here, down at the bottom. There we go. Or where all of the rule includes. So you can come in here, and all of the ones obviously that have a hash in front of them are commented out. How do I get a different command to work to install snort? Yeah, if anybody else used a different command to install snort, and VampiCat, I have a link I can send you to if that doesn't work, and it'll show you how to compile it. So you can go in here and comment out or comment in, you know, rule files as they suit you. So in here, I had added in my my custom rules. So $rule path, which is defined above, and then my custom.rules is going to have that Tor rule added to the snort config. So to test all this out, it's not, oh, actually, you know, what we have to do is make sure you check your networking, your networking, right? Because you want snort to be able to listen on your adapters, right? One thing that I thought was pretty cool is when and you might actually see it, I don't know if it'll come up on the right screen or not, is Fusion actually pops up and says that something's trying to listen to your network adapter and that you have to approve it or deny it, which I thought was pretty cool. Windows definitely does not do that. So we're going to look at my network adapters. So in here you see I have just the one adapter on this so far, which should be fine, which is going to be my lab. Let me make sure I can get out. Okay, good. So this 192.168.11.117 is my lab network, which can get out to the internet, which is going to be helpful because we want Tor to actually try and connect outbound. So I have my Tor browser here. Let's make that smaller. There we go. Right there. And we need to run, so you can run snort just as like a standalone thing that's running when you have your command line open, or you can run it as a daemon. So to run it as a daemon, we'll use the -D. But there's a whole thing in here. So we'll do snort. Run this on the firewall choke point. So you don't, okay, yeah, so you can either run it so it's listening to everything that's happening on this device, right? Or you can do a span port. So, you know, everything that is going out one port is also duplicated on another. You could pass everything through this device. So you would have a snort box in the middle of your network and then the rest of the internet. So it would have to pass, you know, that would be part of your routing, is it would go through this. However you need to do it, it definitely needs to be able to listen on the port where the traffic is happening. So the reason that this is going to alert is that I have Tor installed on the box that I'm going to be running snort on. Say if somebody else on my lab network ran the Tor browser, this would definitely not fire the way I have it currently set up. I believe you can also run it in, how is it? You can like forward all of the logging and packet capturing stuff to it and do it that way too. So we're going to run snort-vde, and then we're going to tell it where our config file is, which is -c. So etc snort.conf. Oh, and actually, you know what? Before we do that, you can actually test your config file by typing snort-tat capital T, and then where the config file is that you want to test. See if this works. Woohoo! Yep, and right there at the bottom, I mean, it goes through and validates pretty much everything, and then it'll actually come in here and tell you if it was successful or not validating your configuration. So we're going to hurry up and run this, and I will show you it hopefully in the logs where it's alerting on Tor, and then I'll give you in the Slack chat, because I don't have this chat open anymore for some reason, what that snort rule is if you'd like a copy of it. So we're going to open, we're going to start snort as a daemon. Okay, yeah, and you guys probably can't see it on this screen, but my Mac pops up and says a virtual machine is attempting to monitor all network traffic, which requires administrator access. So I'm going to give it. And this is it actively monitoring the packets, by the way, going back and forth between this host on that network, networking adapter and everything else. So this is the exact same thing that you'd see if you would run Wireshark. So I'm going to open up the Tor browser. You can see the packets going by much faster now. Look at that. We're on the deep dark web. And we're not going to do anything there because only criminals use Tor. Kidding. All right. I'm going to close that out. And I just did Control-C and exited out of Snort. And we are going to go into and tail var log snort. It should be an alert, I think. Maybe not. Oh yeah, right there. So it's right there. Tor uplink commandos and everything about it. You know, the IP address that it was contacting, blah, blah, blah. And if you want, you can actually look at the entire snort log that it was looking at. Actually, we'll just go into it. Oh, maybe not. Oh yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. You can't cat that. It's going to be super weird looking. But you can open it up with and look at it with Snort, or you can look at it in something like Wireshark or whatever. Okay, so I know the end of that was kind of a train wreck, but hopefully you learned something. I don't know everything about Snort, definitely. There are some really super smart people out there that do nothing but like write Snort and sort of kind of rules, and there's a lot going into it if you want to create your own rules, but it's definitely a lot of fun to play around with and fairly easy if you install it on the same box that you're doing your testing on. And the fact that I can't see chat anymore in this Zoom meeting, and it kind of went to shit. Go ahead and go over to Slack if you want to ask me anything, and we can kind of just, you know, finish up the session over there. And I have absolutely no idea how the recording is going to turn out, so hopefully it turns out all right. All right, so I will talk to you guys later, and I'll see you next Monday.